things just got interesting in the Rams' search for a long-term QB to replace Matthew Stafford for the long run, as well as some roster moves and practice news for this week. All that and more on this episode of Rams Digest. And welcome back to another episode of Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Finehirsh. And before we get into today's video, make sure to hit that subscribe button because we are on the road to 5K subscribers. So if you want to be a part of the journey, make sure to hit that sub button right now and click the notification bell. Click all so you get notified and never miss our daily new Rams Digest video content covering all things LA Rams. And leave a like on this video for the final week of the preseason upon us. The Rams go into Cleveland this weekend to play the Browns on a Saturday to end out the preseason. But we have some interesting rumors cooking up here throughout the NFL world surrounding Anthony Richardson after the Colts yesterday announced Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback. Colts fans, I wish you the best of luck this year. I think that was the wrong decision personally, but we shall see what this means for the Rams. And this story is from Rams Wire and Dan Orlovsky coming to us right now. The LA Rams don't really have a quarterback problem entering 2025. Yes, Matthew Stafford is hurt and old, but Jimmy Garoppolo is a more than capable backup who could start if needed. Okay, we can say he's more than capable. Even Stetson Bennett looked good in preseason and might be able to suit up under center. I agree. The Rams' biggest concern is the future of the position. Stafford will be 38 in 2026, Garoppolo will need a new deal next year and isn't a great long-term option, and Bennett is still a big question mark. The Rams could use one of their 2 first-rounders to snag a quarterback in the 2026 NFL Draft, but that's months away. Yeah, I mean, you have the option of drafting a quarterback in the draft. We'll see where that Falcons pick ends up, because I do think the Rams are a better team than the Falcons, as long as Stafford plays at least 15 games this year, which I do think he will, based on where he is now. And because of that, that Falcons pick's probably going to be somewhere around that 13-ish range, and I do think a quarterback could very well be on the board still that the Rams could like. Maybe it's a Drew Al or a Cade Klubnik or a guy like that. We'll see if Arch Manning declares. That's really the main story. If Arch Manning does declare, he'll go number 1, most likely, or some team will trade up to 1 who needs a quarterback. If the Titans have the number 1 pick again, I don't think they take Arch Manning, but we'll see about that. And for the Rams, finding someone potentially on a trade market or as a free agent to see if they can be a guy, like what the Vikings did to Sam Darnold, helped him resurrect his career, get him to another team, but this time the Rams would end up re-signing that player. They have multiple different options to go in this quarterback market. Instead, ESPN and ex-NFL quarterback Dan Orlovsky, former Stafford teammate, thinks the Rams should trade a mid-round pick for Indianapolis Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson, as we have a screenshot coming up here from Orlovsky's Twitter of some teams that he thinks could be interesting. Teams that should offer the Colts a mid-round pick for Anthony Richardson today: Eagles, Rams, Vikings. Eagles, makes sense. Another guy who's a running quarterback can help the defense practice if they play another running quarterback. Good offensive coach, good QB to learn from, and Jalen Hurts. The Rams makes a lot of sense as well. You got a guy in Sean McVay. He helped turn Jared Goff into a much better quarterback. And obviously he has another Hall of Fame quarterback to learn under Matthew Stafford. And the Vikings one, I get it because of what happened with Sam Darnold, but JJ is their guy for right now. Now, Anthony Richardson doesn't really have a path to playing time if he sits behind JJ. I do think out of these 3 teams Orlovsky mentioned, the Rams are the best fit. I've been talking about this off camera with some of my friends that I fully agree the Rams should trade for Anthony Richardson. It makes sense. Maybe you'll probably have to trade Stetson Bennett in this deal just because you're not going to give him Jimmy Garoppolo. You're not going to want that. You're going to want at least a guy younger. And Stetson Bennett and Daniel Jones, probably similar ages, let's be honest. But Stetson Bennett at least has some form of a potential to improve, whereas Jimmy G really doesn't. So I don't know about a mid-round pick either for the package. I think even a 7th-round pick would be. I really think a 7th-round pick is enough to trade for Anthony Richardson because his value right now is at an all-time low. And it really sucks for him right now because top 4 pick really likes the potential of coming out of Florida a couple years ago, right behind Bryce Young and CJ Stroud in that 2023 draft. And it just really hasn't panned out just yet for him. But I am still a believer that it definitely can pan out. This will be a low-risk, high-reward move for LA. Richardson will never be a cheaper asset after the Colts named Daniel Jones as their Week 1 starting quarterback, and he could use a change of scenery. He's still a raw player, but that means he's still moldable in a Sean McVay offense. Yeah, I fully agree. Richardson's agent came out and said that they don't really know what the future is for him right now, and I understand that. I don't think it's possible for him to stay in Indianapolis, just because it also seems like, this has not been confirmed, but just from stuff that I've seen floating around social media, that even the locker room was starting to lose a little bit of respect. Again, I'm not in that locker room, so I can't really attest to that, but that is potentially the case as well here. And Daniel Jones is a guy who, he did win a playoff game, and he played well in a playoff game against the aforementioned Vikings, so definitely an interesting stat here also for Anthony Richardson is that he's 6'4", 244. I heard his weight did change in camp. I tried to look up what his new weight is, but I could not find that. He's only started 15 games through 2 seasons at the age of 23. He was only a 1-year starter at Florida, didn't have a lot of college experience, but you love the height. He ran the 4.43 40, which shocked me. I knew he was fast, but I didn't think it was 4.4. That's almost like a Lamar level in terms of a speed coming from the quarterback position on Lamar and Mike Vick level. So definitely something to look into, and he's only 23. You can see him improving. You can see him growing and developing. And it took Sam Darnold a little bit to figure it out. We'll see if that continues in Seattle this year, but it took Sam Darnold to 27 to figure out how to be an effective NFL quarterback over a long stretch. So we will see just what exactly this does mean for Anthony Richardson. But I do think he needs a change of scenery with the Rams or not. For his career, for his confidence, I think it is important that he gets that change of scenery. He would also never be expected to play in 2025. It's Stafford or Garoppolo's team it's Stafford's team this year. Stafford's not missing the entire season. It's Stafford's team this year, okay? Richardson offers a big arm and a dual threat ability that the Rams have never had at quarterback under McVay. He's rushed 111 times for 635 yards and 10 touchdowns in 15 games. The passing, though, is the issue. His 50.6 completion rate is awful, and he has a 3.7% interception rate over his first 2 seasons. Yeah, that's not good. That's what you have to change. The running is awesome. The running is up there with Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Josh Allen. Hurts is a great red zone runner, but again, that O-line helps him. But those other guys, they run more in the open field better. And Anthony Richardson, because his deep ball ability is actually really good. It's everything else that needs to improve. And again, he hasn't had like the best receiving core. Michael Pittman Jr., I think, is heavily underrated. But outside of that, he hasn't really had much. This year, Tyler Warren, I think, would have helped him out a lot. In the Rams, you have Ferguson, you got Higbee, you got Puka, you have Devontae for a couple years, so if Stafford were to retire at the end of this year, we'll see if Devontae wants to stay. But if he does, you'd have Devontae. That he'd have a better supporting cast around him, a better... Shane Steichen is a really good offensive coach, but I just feel like the coordinators in a Mike LaFleur for right now are better than what the Colts have at the coordinator position. So it is definitely important to see just how much this would change Anthony Richardson. He may never be a completion percentage guy. Like Josh Allen started off with a very low completion percentage, and it's gotten a lot better. But he's still not known as, he's throwing 70% completion. Like that's never going to be Anthony Richardson. If he's at 64, 65% completion, like you will 100% take that for him throughout this upcoming season. And McVay might not be able to fix Richardson, but it would be a cheap look for a potential franchise quarterback who could replace Stafford as early as 2026. And if it worked out, the Rams could use their first-round picks on other positions of need. Corner, linebacker, if Rob Havenstein retires, an offensive lineman as well. So, yeah, I could agree with this for sure. Yeah, if Richardson does work and you want to give him a look in 2026, because he would still have another year left on the deal, on his rookie deal, that it does make sense. You can use your first-round picks on other positions of need, and you have a strong running game with Kyren, Corum, Jarquez Hunter. The Colts line is decent already, and so is the Rams, and he's had a good running game there too, so... McVay having a dual-threat quarterback, imagine the even more explosive and diverse this offense could be with a dual-threat quarterback for McVay. But comment down below right now whether or not you agree with this move and what you would give up for Anthony Richardson if that is a reality. I would say a 6th or 7th round pick really might do it, especially if you attach Stetson Bennett, because I think you'd have to. You're not going to keep 4 quarterbacks. We're not in the Cleveland Browns. We're not keeping 4 quarterbacks. So definitely an interesting idea there. But we do have another idea for a potential franchise quarterback, a college player who the Rams would take in this mock draft. They're at from the Falcons pick. This is from Rams Wire and Field Yates coming up for you right now. The Los Angeles Rams have 2 first-round picks in the 2026 NFL Draft right now, and will need to start thinking about the future of the franchise when the college season kicks off in a few weeks. While a lot can happen to the draft order between now and April of next year, LA is in an advantageous situation after the Rams traded back with the Atlanta Falcons in the 2025 draft to pick up the additional pick. Now the team could use one or both of those picks on a veteran before next year's draft, or even package the picks to move up in the 2026 draft. but for now, analysts are assuming the Rams keep both picks. I think that is the right move for now. Again, if Arch Manning declares and we can trade 2 picks to go up to number 1, oh yeah, do it. But if Arch Manning stays, I don't see us needing to trade into the number 1 overall pick in any scenario to trade up for a quarterback. I wouldn't be shocked if we trade 1 pick, the lower end of the pick, but the higher pick I do think the Rams would want to try to hold on to, which should be the Falcons pick. ESPN's Field Yates went through his first 2026 mock draft and went with 2 positions everyone knows the Rams will look at next year: quarterback and corner. Matthew Stafford will be 38 next year, not 28, and is already dealing with a back injury. His time in LA and the NFL is coming to a close sooner rather than later. The Rams also haven't invested in a quarterback since the Jalen Ramsey trade in a corner. So that's another area they should look to address in 2026. Yeah, I fully agree. Again, the free agent market, you can sign a veteran as well and draft somebody. Yeah, corner, I do think the Rams do need to spend some money on. Maybe they make a trade at the deadline this year. Someone becomes available they didn't expect. Or someone gets hurt and not if someone gets hurt, but if someone gets cut, that you can maybe go for them as well in the midseason free agent market. But we do need to get into Field Yates and his selection here, his quote. And he has a very interesting pick of Sam Leavitt. The Rams can capitalize on a bonus first-round pick after Atlanta traded up for James Pierce Jr. in the 2025 draft. It's not clear whether Matthew Stafford will be playing in 2026, but the Rams can add his heir apparent at the draft either way. Leavitt is an innovator, showing exceptional poise, moxie, and creativity under duress. The redshirt sophomore is a talented thrower and a very strong runner. He had at least 3 passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions in 5 of his final 7 matchups last season, and he finished with 443 rushing yards on the year. I like it start thinking about the future under center with this top 10 pick via Atlanta, and this is from NFL Insider ESPN's Field Yates. And I definitely agree. Sam Leavitt is, I think, one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the country right now out of ASU. 6'2", 210, good size. He'll only be 21 at the draft like Anthony Richardson was, but this will be his second year of starting experience, and he's a much better thrower than Anthony Richardson was at the college level already, and a solid runner. You still get the dual threat ability. Big 12 Offensive Freshman of the Year last year, and Big 12 All-Second Team at the quarterback position. So definitely, I think, a very underrated Heisman candidate. I know his receiver, Jordan Tyson, is awesome, and he's a Heisman candidate as well, but Leavitt is I think, the most underrated quarterback in the entire country and is a top quarterback in this draft class. Personally, Cade Klubnik is my favorite fit outside of Arch Manning for the Rams, but I would not be mad at Sam Leavitt at all if Klubnik is already off the board. Leavitt would be one of the best quarterbacks on the board at number 9, with Arch Manning, Lenora Sellers, and Clay Klubnik already off the board with the first 3 picks. I agree Arch and Cade are the best 2 quarterbacks in the draft. Lenora Sellers is better than Drew Aller and Sam Leavitt? No. No, Lenora Sellers is another guy who I need to see him improve as a thrower before I put him up there. Drew Aller and Garrett Nussmeier are also options with the pick. I am not a Garrett Nussmeier believer at the NFL level as of right now. That could change after this year. But Leavitt is looking at building off of a strong 2024 campaign, where he threw for 2,885 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 6 picks. As Yates mentioned, Leavitt can also run after he carried the ball 110 times for 443 yards and 5 scores. Yeah. Leavitt is a dual threat guy. Kind of like, I feel like Leavitt and Klubnik are very, very similar quarterbacks. They're good at both throwing and running. And I do think both would be able to grasp a Sean McVay-led offense. By the way, also, about one last note about ASU, Kenny Dillingham. Another most underrated coach in college football. I mean, that dude did an awesome job last year. They were right in there in that game against Texas. I mean, also, Skadaboo is gone for ASU. He's now a Giant. So we'll see how Leavitt is with, I would assume, it's a weaker run game. I'm sure his backups really is going to be decent, but the run game is going to get a little bit weaker in his supporting cast. So we will see how he adjusts to that as well. And now we actually have our last story of the day. But before we do, make sure to comment down below your thoughts about Sam Leavitt. I would love the pick at 9 if the Rams do not decide to go for an Anthony Richardson or a different quarterback of that mold of Sam Leavitt. So leave that in the comments down below. But our final story of today, our second to last actually, is the Rams do not have a joint practice this week. We'll just go over that one real quick. The LA Rams have already held 2 joint practices, then this is from Rams Wire, with other teams scrimmaging the Dallas Cowboys and New Orleans Saints in the last 2 weeks. If it were up to Sean McVay, though, they'd have a third one this week. McVay told reporters on Tuesday that the Rams wanted to hold a joint practice with the Cleveland Browns this week, but it didn't work out due to the schedule for each team. It sounds like the Browns already had their plans already set up for this week. We do have the Sean McVay analysis for you right now. It didn't fit for them, McVay said. We were supposed to go to Minnesota and practice against them in the third week. There were some logistics with regards to the NFC having 2 home games and 1 away, and the AFC flipping that because of the 9 and 8 schedule, whatever that means. Now in the way that it's set up, we were trying to be able to do that. It didn't work out. When the schedule was released and we're playing the Browns in the third preseason game, I think Kevin Stefanski and his group already had some other stuff set up. It didn't necessarily fit, but we have some plans to be able to do something similar with our group next Thursday. So that is definitely an interesting mold here that the Rams do not have a third joint practice. We'll see if other teams do. But because the Rams don't play their starters in the preseason, that is just a very, very important note that I wanted to touch on. And McVay and the Rams value these joint practices in a big way because they don't play their starters in the preseason. That gives their top players an opportunity to face other teams in these scrimmages, getting different looks besides the ones they see every day in practice against the Rams offense or defense. While the Rams won't scrimmage the Browns, the two teams will square off in the preseason finale on Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern. That game is being played in Cleveland before the Rams head back home to LA for final roster cuts and Week 1 prep. Yeah, definitely the Rams not playing their starters in preseason, I don't think it's a big deal. But now that they don't get this joint practice, comment down below what you think this means for the Rams. And we'll see what the plan is for tomorrow. I'm sure my co-host Joshua Hirona will be all over that practice news. And now we actually do have our final story of the day. And it is from the Rams Twitter account. The Rams yesterday placed on injured reserve outside linebacker Kyren Thomas, which does mean that the linebacker competition is now more open, with Brennan Jackson and Nick Hampton now fighting to make that final spot, or the Rams will keep both. Comment down below what you think about that. And Kyren Thomas can return at some point this season, so we'll see if he does ever end up getting on the active roster. And sadly, my guy, wide receiver Mario Williams, got injured, and sadly he was waived by the Rams. Thank you for all your efforts in camp, Mario. You were playing great in the preseason, man. I do think he can have a shot somewhere else. We'll see if the Rams bring him back next year. And because of these injuries, they have signed offensive lineman Mike McAllister, who's been on the Rams practice squad in the past, so we'll see if he has a chance to make this team, because the backup O-line competition is underway, and we'll see if McAllister gets any reps in the final preseason game to see if he makes the team or if he's just a practice squad guy. And that is all for this episode of Rams Digest. And before you go, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We are on the road to 5K subscribers, and if you want to be a part of the journey, hit the sub button. And after you do that, click the notification bell, click all, so you get notified and never miss whenever we post our daily new Rams Digest video content covering all things LA Rams. And make sure right now to comment down below your thoughts on the Anthony Richardson trade. Do you agree with it? What would you give up? I said a 6th, and Stetson Bennett I think should be enough to get it done. And comment down below your thoughts on Sam Leavitt and the Rams drafting a quarterback in general. I want to know your thoughts. My top 2 are Cade Klubnik and Sam Leavitt as in terms of fits for the Rams if they can't get Arch. So leave that in the comments, as well as leave in the comments your thoughts on what the Rams will do tomorrow, because I'm very interested to see what they'll do tomorrow instead of a joint practice. And like this video right now, preseason week 3 underway, almost done, almost on to regular season preps, and make sure to leave a like on this video for that. I've been your host, Joshua Finehirsh, as always. Thank you very much for watching another episode of Rams Digest. I'll see you soon for another one. I hope you enjoyed it, and have a great rest of your day.